Welcome to Creative Piecemeal. I'm Tammy Takeishi, a board-certified music therapist. Join me each week as a new guest from across the fine and creative arts spheres shares struggles, triumphs, laughs, words of wisdom, and more in authentic, thought-provoking, and inspiring interviews. Hello, and welcome to Creative Piecemeal. Today I'm joined by Michele C. She's an award-winning journalist, author, and animal lover. As a journalist, she focuses on health, mental health, aging, climate, pets, wildlife, and people who do extraordinary things. Her byline appears in the New York Times, The Guardian, Next Avenue, Inside Your Cat's Mind, Inside Your Dog's Mind, The Animal Mind, The Wildest, Symphony Magazine, and other online and print publications. Her favorite parts of being a journalist are researching events, interviewing people, and understanding the whys of how things work. She co-wrote a few Minecraft jokes with her books with her son, and also wrote a book on the Grateful Dead and one about careers you can have with animals. And Michele can be found online at her website, michelechollow.com, MICHELEC hollow.com, and you can follow her on Facebook, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. Listeners will have all of that information in the show notes, of course, the full bio, along with the links so you can follow up with her. But she's on the show to talk about Jurassic Girl, The Adventures of Mary Anning, paleontologist and the first female fossil hunter. And you wrote this book for young readers. It came out back in September of 24, and I'm really excited to have you on the show to talk about the book, to talk about journalism, creativity, and whatever else we get up to today.
Sounds great.
I guess the first question would be your journalism career. How did you get started in that? And what made you decide to switch and write a book about Mary Anning?
Well, I always wanted to when I was little, I had two career choices that I was obsessed with: journalism or veterinary. I thought one or the other because they seemed to me the greatest jobs that anybody could have. I love working with animals, but I did better, much, much better in writing in English classes and history than I did in science. I took zoology classes when I was a kid. I grew up in the Bronx, and my mom enrolled me in zoology classes at the Bronx Zoo. So every Saturday morning I would get up, I'd either walk or take two buses to go, and I'd listen to the zoologists talk about the animal. They'd pick a specific animal that day, bring the animal out. Sometimes we had to interact with the animals. This was like thrilling for me. I mean, truly thrilling. I just love being around them. I was the only kid in the class. I didn't care. I just liked, there's a llama, there's a sparrowhawk, there's something there. And I was like so close. And it was terrific. And in the summers, I also volunteered at Central Park Zoo in Manhattan, giving tours. I could volunteer work in the children's zoo, and there you're allowed to handle the animals. In the main zoo, I picked the hippopotamus because it means river horse. I love horses. I love hippos. I actually think they're very cool looking. I know they're like one of the most dangerous animals on the planet, but I still really like them. So I would talk about them, and I've just always been interested in that, but I wanted to write about health and people and animals, and I just love journalism, and I've been in it at a good time. I started right out of college. I sent out over 100 resumes. Nobody would hire me. So I got an offer to go to Louisiana. So I left New York City and went to, when I say southern Louisiana, I mean the tip, the bayou. It's very, very different for me coming from the city. Very different lifestyle. Really great Cajun music that I didn't even know about, and I learned and loved. Nice people, very hot, like incredibly hot. It's not my thing. And I got to do daily reporting, mainly police beat, just what people were doing. It was a daily morning community newspaper. So I then came back to New York. I worked for Fairchild Publications. You might know Women's Wear Daily. I did not work for them. I worked for their sister publication called Home Furnishings Daily. which is a better fit for me. I'm not really into clothing fashion, but the interior design was fun. And when after 3 years there, I left to freelance and I wrote for like House Beautiful, Better Homes and Gardens. I did pieces on architecture. And I always feel in journalism, there's always a path that you can go from one place to another. And I still wanted to do something with animals. And I'm writing about the home, and we have pets. So I started writing for different magazines about pet health, pet care, and it was just a joy. I really like doing that and talking to veterinarians, people that know a lot about animals, and were able to answer my questions.
It sounds like you had a chance to do a variety of things. Was there anything in particular, in addition to the animals, that you loved writing about in your journalism career?
I like writing about health. I do write about autism. My kid's, he's pretty high functioning, but he's on the spectrum. So I have a very keen interest in that. And as a journalist, I don't think a lot of journalists, myself included, are experts. We know a lot about a lot of topics. I do know a whole lot about autism because it affected our home. And I did everything I could to learn about it. And I've written about autism and what kids are doing in programs for them and college programs for them. I even found a really great program. My kid wanted to go to college, and I thought, well, he's now at Rowan University in South Jersey. There's an incredible autism program down there. So it's a regular college degree, but they have assistance if somebody needs it. So I like that. I like talking to people who do incredible things. Like I wrote an article about a man, he's a professional musician, plays in mostly Mozart in New York. He plays on Broadway, and Mondays are his days off. So he goes to the ASPCA and he plays for formerly abused and animal dogs that are being rehabilitated. The ASPCA has two offices. This one is not open to the public. This is where dogs are rescued from really awful situations. And this wonderful man, his name is Martin Agee, he goes in and he plays classical music for the dogs.
Oh, that's
And you might have heard about people that read to dogs at shelters. He's playing music, and I got to see him do this, and the dogs were like really attentive. They just loved it. And also the workers and the volunteers, anybody who got to hear him, experienced a lot of joy. It was quite lovely. So something like that. I tell people I kind of fall in love with some of these people that I write about because they're doing important things. It's that people should know about things like that. And that's what brought me to Mary Anning. Here was this girl who was 12 years old. This was back in 1811, at a time when girls and women were not recognized in the scientific community. And she made this incredible discovery for the scientific community. So that's why I love journalism, and I wanted to write this book. And I still am a journalist, and I will always write news stories and feature stories. Also got into writing about health because it could be about people overcoming illnesses or people living with illnesses and how they deal with that. I also write a lot about senior health, taking care of elderly parents, and taking care of kids, and of course, animals.
Is there a particular story across all of your years that I guess left the most impact more than others?
Well, I like the one about Martin, who rescued the dog, but it's another dog story. There are dogs that are trained. Well, as you know, dogs can sniff out illnesses. There was one kid that I interviewed, him and his mom. He had epileptic seizures, and he got a service dog. And really struck me more than anything. The dog would always nudge him before, like it could be 5, 10, 15 minutes before an attack was going to come on. He would sense scientists believe there's a change in the sense of smell. It's not detectable to us. Dogs have a higher sense of scent detection. Some dogs now are being used to find rare animals, to find, they're just being used to help us and to with disease and to locate endangered species, endangered plants. It's pretty amazing. Well, let me get back to the kid. So he's in class with his service dog, and the service dog dutifully sits right by his side. This happens all the time. One day, out of the blue, the dog gets up, walks away from him, and circles the teacher's desk 3 times. And like the kid is dumbfounded, like, why is he doing this? This is not typical. Later that night, the kid's mom got a call from the teacher's husband. The teacher had an epileptic seizure, and the teacher was fine, but it happened much later that day. But the dog could sense that something was wrong.
Mm.
So that is, to me, animals are amazing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they are. They are. Wow. I'm so impacted. Your stories are so interesting. Obviously, stories that actually happen, but I mean, like, I had not heard that before. And I also, as a musician, I love knowing that there's other musicians that go out there and provide for animals in that very special way. That's really neat. Is he still doing that?
Yes,
Oh, that's wonderful.
it's the service dog is, and Martin is still doing the ASPCA,
Oh,
which is
wonderful.
pretty, it's his time. But he likes it, and he has a cat. So it's like, because we were talking about cats,
Nice.
love cats.
Getting back to your book, Jurassic Girl: The Adventures of Mary Anning, for those who don't know about her, or maybe only know a little bit about paleontology, is there anything else that you'd want to say about your book or about Mary Anning?
I just like how she persevered, how she triumphed when people said no. And the head of the Geological Society, this is back again in 1811, in the small town of Lyme Regis, where she grew up. It's part of the Jurassic Coast. The head of the England's, London's Geological Society, George Cuvier, he did not believe that a girl, she's 12, or even if she was a woman, you know, women did not, no females in science. And she came from a poor family. She was self-educated. Back then, you had to pay to go to school. So her Sunday school teacher was also an amateur fossil hunter. Fossil hunting was just new at the time, and extinction was a brand new concept. A lot of people found it impossible to believe that a god could create a species that would die out. Why would that happen? So I don't get into the religion or anything like that, but it was just this new concept. She found this 17-foot Ichthyosaurus. They did not know what it was. They thought from this long, narrow snout, maybe it was a crocodile. And the person she sold it to got credit in the scientific journals for discovering it. So that got her very upset, naturally so. And she went about proving that, yes, indeed, she did find this. And she had all these witnesses because there was a dig. And it was in 2 parts. It was the body and then the head. And it took a while because most of the time she spent her days at the seaside digging for small little ammonites, small fossils. And she persisted and triumphed. And today she is known as the mother of paleontology. I wrote this for kids because I thought a lot of times kids are told, no, you can't do this. And here she is. She did something and she really, this was her passion. And imagine being at the seaside. And back then, again, 1811, she wore these long dresses and these boots, and she had to climb part of the cliffs, and it's not ideal. She wouldn't stop. This was her passion. She went out rain or shine, and it was dangerous. There were rocks that would fall from the cliffs. She had a lot of near misses. When she was a kid, it said that she was hit by lightning. She was a baby, and she was this very weak baby. Back then, a lot of people, we didn't have vaccines. Here I get a little political. Babies died. Children did not live long. People had big families. She was one of 10, I believe, but only her and her older brother Joseph survived. And she was a sickly baby. They were at some event in town. She was partially struck by lightning, and the nurse that was holding her was hit. But they said it made her stronger, which is very bizarre. But she was unconscious. They dunked her in water and they revived her. And since then she it didn't stop her. And she also had to be careful of the beach, the waves being pulled in, which she was a few times as well. But my book focuses on her first major fossil find, the Ichthyosaurus, and how she proved that she did indeed discover it.
That is really fascinating. I come from a music background, not too. I mean, I enjoy science, but so I wasn't super familiar with her before I'd heard about your book, but I didn't know about her being struck by lightning. That's actually really, really interesting, and it sounds like she lived such an adventurous life and she didn't let anything stop her and she was able to do a lot of really great things for the field, for the future field.
That's what I loved about her, that she just persisted and triumphed, which is great. That's the story, that you shouldn't back down. And when I've talked to kids at schools, like fourth, fifth graders, a bunch of the girls come up to me and their fists are raised and their light raised, and it's like, girl power, girl power. And it's like, unfortunately, they know it's hard in certain fields for women and girls. So.
Yeah, very true, very true. Without giving away too many other things, are there any other projects for young readers that you're working on right now?
I'm almost done with a book also like this. It's historical fiction about a dog. Surprise. The dog is Stubby. I don't know if you've heard of him. Sergeant Stubby was the beginning of World War One for the United States. Europe obviously got into the war 4 years before we joined. There were base camps set up all over the United States, and on Yale University's campus was an army base. And there were lots of stray dogs that would hang out by the mess tent. And this new soldier, he was like on his first day, he goes to the mess tent, walks out, and there are all these dogs. They're looking for food. A lot of soldiers get extra food and they feed the dogs. Well, he became very, very attached to one dog, Stubby, and he was called Stubby because he had a stub of a tail, part American Pit Bull Terrier. He smuggled Stubby aboard a ship leaving from Connecticut, from the US to France. And this was dangerous because if the dog got caught, he could have been thrown overboard. It's like, why are you bringing a dog to a war zone? He barks, he's going to attract attention from the enemies. We're going to get killed. So he did not bark. And he was trained very, very well by Robert Conroy, was the man who smuggled him, and the rest of his unit. And Stubby captured a German spy, saved the troop from gas attack again because they can smell before we can. The mustard gas, it doesn't, you don't smell it like instantly, and it makes you very sleepy, and it can kill you, make you very, very sick. So he did that. He was awarded medals of honor by 3 U.S. presidents. I mean, this dog did a lot of things to save his troop, rescued some prisoners, American prisoners and British prisoners at one crossing where there was a lot of fire. He is a hero. You can actually, the soldier had Stubby's dog's body taxidermy, which I think is kind of creepy in a way. But if you go to the American History Museum in DC, you can see Stubby. He's there, and he's next to a bird called Chez Ami, who it was a pigeon. A lot of pigeons were used to send messages from one troop to another. So his Chez Ami's body is there too. I got to go to the museum. I spent about a week there in their archives, looking through the corporal's handbook and his scrapbook, and got to read a lot about the dog. And I was just fascinated. That is now with my agent, and we'll see what happens.
Nice. I feel like these kinds of stories are so pivotal for young people to get interested in science, interested in animals, interested in, just branching out, interested in history, of course, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I loved history class, but not everyone goes to history class interested in it. So I feel like stories like those, bringing them to light would help people be engaged more in the school systems.
I think so too. Favorite movies are based on true stories. I love learning about somebody who's done something remarkable.
Hmm.
And I tend to watch some of these stories over and over again because they're just it's true, it's real. And most of these people didn't do it for they did it because it was right. It was the right thing to do. And I think a lot of the kids that I've spoke to here, we don't know much about Mary Anning. They know more about her in the UK because that's where she's from. And last year they came out with a Mary Anning postage stamp. So she is known there, even though, she is the mother of paleontology. I think more people should know about her. And I think especially girls would be interested, and boys too. But she's a hero. And again, the fact that people said no, and she's like, no, I'm going to forge ahead and do something positive and prove that I did indeed discover this. And she went on to discover other fossils. She was one of the first people to discover the coprolites, which is the dinosaur dung. And these are fossilized, but if you break them open, I don't know if you've seen this new documentary, Walking with Dinosaurs. Looking at dinosaur poo, you can find what they ate. You can find his clues to the animal's life. And she did this back in the early 18 and mid 1800s.
I was curious, what are some books that had made an impression on you when you were young, or any books that even you read recently as an adult?
Recently, as an adult, I've been doing a lot of reading. I just finished a book called Olivetti, which everybody should read. It's not a true story. It's about a typewriter. It's like, of all things, a typewriter. Okay. But the typewriter has a memory, and it's about a family, and there's an illness in the family. And I was crying over this typewriter.
Mm.
So it's really, really well done. And that's a middle grade book. I just read John Green's Everything is Tuberculosis because I love John Green. He writes a lot of middle grade books. The one that really is famous is The Fault in Our Stars, which was a movie. I think I've read, as I said, all of his books, and this one just came out, and it's about the history of tuberculosis. Doesn't sound very sexy, but it's he writes really beautifully. A friend of mine wrote a book called The Dragon from Chicago. It's about Sigrid Schultz. She covered the rise of the Nazis, and she was originally from Europe, lived in Chicago, exposed a lot of the horrible things that they did. And again, an important book, and it's really, really well written. Oh, and I just read The Art Thief. Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe from the first sentence. I was like, if I could write like this person. Michael Finkel, I think, is the author. It's true story based on this person that stole a few hundred art pieces and about the lack of security at most art museums. It's mind-boggling. There's a story in there about another theft at one museum in Europe where these thieves took a ladder, placed it on front. This was at night, but they placed the ladder on the front of the art museum, climbed up to the second floor, broke the window. Security guard heard the alarm go off and thought, oh, maybe it's broken. He goes down to the basement to fix it. And while this is happening, the art thieves cut the wires with their wire cutters and steal this big, very, multi-million dollar piece of art. And they left the ladder, they left the art cutters, and they left a note saying, thank you for your lack of security. I mean, can you imagine? I'm reading this like, no, it's not big. So I love art. I mean, I love going to art museums. I could spend days, and the way they set up, and it's true. I don't want to give anything away in case anybody is planning on reading it, but it's a really, really good book. And then another friend wrote The Angel Makers, also a true story in the early 1900s, how women they were abused. This is in Europe. It, it, this woman, she was a wet nurse, and she would help she poisoned like a lot of men that were abusers. And it's like a lot. And there was a trial and such, but it's just so beautifully written. Patty McCracken wrote that. It's a very, very highly recommend that. And as a kid, thinking, I mean, I loved Harry. I was not a Nancy Drew girl at all, but I loved Harriet because I could relate to her jeans and sweatshirts as opposed to the pearls. I read a lot of different books. I read a lot of nonfiction. I liked about The Art Thief that it's nonfiction, but it reads like fiction. So, and that's what I wanted to do with Jurassic Girl, and that's what I want to do with the next book. I want them to read like fiction.
What is something that you found surprising across your writing career, whether it was from the journalism side or the kidlit side?
It's not easy. It surprises me when people say, "Oh, I'm going to write a book." It's like, "Oh yeah, it's not easy." I'm not saying that it's the part that I'm finding myself and most writers don't enjoy as doing all the publicity. The book doesn't sell itself. I do like talking, especially to kids, because they really get it and they're fun. That was surprising. And just doing the research, being a journalist or writing books, learning about real people and what they did, that is like a drug in a sense. It keeps me going. It makes me want to learn more. That is why I do this. And I think everybody should know about Mary Anning. Like I really do, because I adore her. I think what she did was pretty amazing. If I had a time machine and could go back in time, I would love to have met her.
That's actually one of my questions I ask people sometimes is like, if you could travel to any place and time, where would it be? And so I guess that would be your answer. It would be into the 1800s to meet her.
It would, yeah, I would love to meet her. There's so many wonderful people that did wonderful things that we should know about. And that's where history comes in. I was really lucky. I remember in seventh and eighth grade, I had the same history teacher in junior high school. He used to call families up, and like when you answer the phone and it's your teacher, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's the end. I'm gonna die now." He would call and say, "So and so is doing really well in history class." I find history just it's fascinating. It's nice to learn, and if you have a teacher who's enthusiastic, you're so much the better.
Yeah, so true. I was always really blessed to have some great teachers across the board, including history
Hmm.
as well. So, I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, but versus you growing up in New York, but yeah, just really, really grateful.
No, there's some great museums out where you are, and there's schools go across the board in New York. There are some great ones, and there are some not so great ones. I was lucky; I was in good schools.
Did you have a favorite museum that you liked to frequent when you were growing up in New York?
I like the Museum of Modern Art, and I took my kid there, and he just loved it. I mean, just it was so thrilling for me to see. He was taking like picture after picture, and we went first to Starry Night to see the Van Gogh, which everybody knows, but it was just like one thing after another. And it's just a lot of fun to walk through that museum. And also the Museum of Natural History I went to check out the dinosaurs, and they do have an ichthyosaurus there, fossil, so I wanted to see it. They have the a stegosaurus that's pretty new, and it's almost complete. I did not know this. When I was growing up, most of the dinosaurs that we saw were not 100% dinosaur bones. There was, a lot of, I don't know, some sort of plastic that was used to imitate the dinosaur bones. So they found what they could find. And if you do watch, I mean, it's amazing to see how big these areas are where the paleontologists are digging. I mean, it's huge. I don't know how, like, let's pick this area. They might, if they're lucky, they'll find maybe a dinosaur footprint. And they learn so much from that because we were not around back then. No humans were. And to know that, when I was little, I think the T-Rex was more bent over. Now it's more upright. So we're learning about them. And again, that documentary that we were watching, Walking with Dinosaurs, talks about theories that paleontologists have. We recently learned that dinosaurs, a lot of them had feathers, and now they are birds. Like that's what I tell the kids. If you want to see a dinosaur go outside. See that pigeon? It's like, yay. And there's a really great statue. It's not going to be there much longer on the High Line in New York City, where I don't know how large it is. It's a few stories tall of a pigeon, and it's called Dinosaur.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't seen it yet.
I'll have to send you a picture. It is really cool. It is really, really cool.
Do you have a favorite dinosaur?
I like the Stegosaurus. I like Triceratops. I should say the Ichthyosaurus, which isn't really, it's a water animal because that's what Mary found. There's so many. There are so many. When I talk to the kids, T-Rex is always up there.
Yeah. So I must ask, what are your thoughts on the Jurassic Park movies? Like, do you just like the originals or do you like all these spin-offs?
I think they've had their day. I know a lot of people are going to get mad about that. The first one was okay. It was just okay. It wasn't brilliant. I did read that the roars that the dinosaur made in that movie, that scientists have discovered that the actual sounds of some of these animals are much deeper and more powerful, which is pretty scary in a way. But did not see the rest of them. We just saw the other day Jurassic World Rebirth, and it's okay. I thought I should go see it because it's dinosaur related. It's an interesting story. What I didn't like about it, and I get disappointed when I see a movie and I know what's going to happen next. Like I knew who was going to die, and my husband was like, red shirts from like Star Trek, like if they wore a red shirt, they were going to die. Um, so everybody who's going to die before it happens. It's a very predictable story. But my kid loved it. My husband liked it. A lot of people love it.
I haven't seen anything past like the first original two or three from the mid 90s. Yeah, I just have a really hard time keeping up with a series of anything, series of books, series of movies. After a couple, I'm like, that's it. I'm done.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I was just curious your take as a person with your background, what you thought of those movies. Like if
I
you
like
watch them and cringe or if you just like them for entertainment purposes.
cringe. I just thought, I know what's gonna, it's like when you go see a movie and there's a murder and you're like, oh, I know who did it, and I want to be wrong, and it's too obvious. Beautifully filmed, and I don't know where they filmed it. It's gorgeous. It looks like Tahiti or something. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So the scenery, but that's not why you go to a movie. I think it's just I rather see something else. I'm looking forward to seeing the Superman movie, but it has nothing to do with dinosaurs.
Pivoting a little bit, what other things do you like to do in your life that are creative when you're not writing?
I was very excited. I just got a bird feeder and put it in the backyard. The Blue Jays and Cardinal, there was just one Cardinal. They found it. And I was like, because I wanted to put it in a spot where they were going to find the food. I love walking. I just love going outside and walking. And now that I see these birds in my backyard, it's like, yay. And another great book, Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan. I had no idea that I knew she was a great writer, but I had no idea that she was a great artist.
Hmm.
After reading that, it's like, yes, you really need to have a bird feeder and put water out for them because it's been really hot. So, and they found it. It's like, yay. So this morning I looked out the window and it's like, they're here. That's thrilling for me. So it tells you something.
That's wonderful, yeah.
And taking walks. You're never going to find me in a gym. There's nothing wrong with gyms. It's just not my thing. But I do like going out and walking. And I'm now in a smaller town, so I can see rabbits once in a while. I might see a deer and see birds. So I would like to be a birder someday. Yeah, I'd like to learn more about birds.
Do you have a favorite bird?
I like so many of them. I'm thrilled with the cardinal. I do like the red-winged blackbirds. They're all black, but they have this stripe of red when they spread their wings, and sometimes they have a stripe of red and yellow. So
Mm.
again, that makes me happy. And also like listening to music. I write for a music magazine, and that's a joy talking to musicians about their work and what inspires them.
Nice, nice.
I know it's I tell my kid, he's in college now, you really need to pick something that you like. I don't want a job where it's like, oh no, I don't want to go do this today. It's
Hmm.
like, yay, today I'm going to interview. So, so I like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's always good. I mean, that old adage that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life is so
Mhm.
true. Is so true.
It is, yes. If you weren't interviewing me, I'd be asking you about your music. So
Excellent. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you'd love to tell the listeners before we go?
read my book. It's available at all bookstores, at libraries. So, and if somebody's interested in writing, just do it. And if you are going to write, join a writer's group. It could be something informal. That's what helped me with this book. I spent every Wednesday for a long time, like almost a year, on the phone with two writer friends, and we would exchange manuscripts. We would help each other, and that helped shape the book.
Yeah. I also write, I don't have anything published aside from poetry, but I would definitely agree about that. Having a writing group, having that core group of friends, and you can, cheer each other on in the process is
Mhm,
so important, not only for the mental health, but also for like
mhm.
brainstorming.
No, most certainly.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show. Listeners, please check the show notes. Check out her website. It'll be linked and where you can buy the book online or wherever you feel comfortable. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Creative Piecemeal. We hope today's episode left you feeling inspired. This podcast is independently created and produced by the host, Tami Takaishi. More details about today's guest can be found in the show notes, along with links to the podcast's socials, merch store, and ways to support arts organizations AHA Broadway and New Normal Rep, both near and dear to Tammy's heart. Don't forget to visit creativepiecemeal.com, the official podcast website, where you can leave fan mail, write a review, explore Tammy's blog, and discover the growing collection of episodes. Special thanks to our audio engineer, Alex Rapetti. Additional narration by Dante Jace. Let's keep celebrating creativity in all its forms.